What up? What up? Welcome back to the Simply Secure podcast. I am your host, Mr. Eddie Thomason, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys to share with you some incredible news, some tips, some things that are going to be changing moving forward with the show. So obviously this episode is a little bit different from all the other episodes that you guys have listened to thus far, but I felt like I had to come on here and give you guys an update on some things that's going to be changing, as well as some things to expect with all of these new changes that is happening with the show. So as you guys already know, if you haven't already, I highly recommend you go back and listen to the episode 000, which was actually recorded it was the second episode I ever recorded of the show. However, it's an introduction of the show and how it came about, why I started it, why I created it from that perspective. And all of the things that is inside of that episode is very true, but it'll give you some context to really understand the transition of what's happening now with the show. So if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you go back and listen to it. But it's not 100% necessary if you just want to be kept in a loop and understand what is going on from this point forward with the Simply Secure podcast. So with all that being said, I guess the biggest thing to share with you all is that we're going through a rebranding period. Things are about to change with the Simply Secure podcast. I got started and still true to this day, understanding nothing about cybersecurity, having no prior connections, maybe other than one or two people that was inside of my, I would say even distant connection list in itself. But at this point, just wanted to provide, I guess, a little bit of a different feel for the show in itself, right? But the reason why I got started was solely because I wanted to learn about the space. I wanted to connect with different leaders inside of the space and learn how cybersecurity really works and to understand how the community starts to converse with each other and share information and share ideas. And at the end of the day, hoping that my conversations that I have with different cybersecurity professionals and different cybersecurity leaders, hoping that those conversations will add value to the space as a whole, and provide some more context and tips and tricks and learning situations for other professionals inside of the cybersecurity space. So whether that be the new person that was trying to break into cyber, whether that be the professional that's already been in cyber maybe for a couple of years, but they want to start to develop their career and move into some of the leadership roles, like becoming a CISO, or director of security or things like that. Or at the end of the day, CISOs themselves, the people that have reached the top of the security field in itself as far as position, hierarchy type of situations, but still wanted to be able to learn from their peers about different things that they can implement within their security teams, different tools, different mindset, different tactics that they can, again, take from the show, apply to their teams, and just become better, right? Because a rising tide raises all ships. That's kind of what the show was meant for, and that's honestly what it's still going to be about at its core. But at the end of the day, I've said at the end of the day a lot, and I'm probably going to chop a good amount of those out. But I share all of those things because we are transitioning. We're moving away from Simply Secure Podcast because of some trademark issues. So just to be clear with you guys, I'm still with Data Locker. I'm 100% excited about Data Locker. I'm excited about being a part of this team and still learning about the industry and still developing content and creating different pieces of content that really still adds value to the space in itself. And I'm excited for the teammates and people that I have. But having this show be called the Simply Secure Podcast and still trying to run it as a separate individual independent show basically runs into some copyright laws as well as some trademark laws. So instead of trying to make the show more of a corporate show in itself and making it feel as though I don't have any creative ability or I don't retain the ability to take the show in a direction that I want it to, I we basically opted to basically have the show separate from Data Locker in itself. So the show is going to be independent on its own, which means I have to get rid of Simply Secure since it is a trademark phrase for Data Locker. I also have to get rid of the little emblem, the shield that I've been using, because it's a representation of one of Data Locker's flagship products as well. So with that being said, that's the biggest note, right? That is the biggest piece of information for you guys to be aware of, is the fact that those changes have to be made in order to make sure that we just keep these two things separate and it doesn't start to feel like a corporate conversation or some type of very corporate type of podcast, right? We still wanted to keep it fun, exciting, relaxed, and an opportunity for other cybersecurity leaders to come on here and chat with me and hopefully down the line some different leaders and have kind of group discussion type of conversations where we can just genuinely add value to the community and add value to the space. So that's the first biggest thing that I wanted to share with you guys. Now, if you're listening to this on, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any of those places, then I feel like the next part of what I'm going to tell you guys, you might want to actually go and look at the video that's on YouTube at some point. Again, it's not 100% necessary, but you definitely want to go look at the YouTube video at some point because you're going to get updated on some of the visuals that's going to be getting changed and moved around inside of this incredible space. You're going to get a good look at the visuals and things that's going to be changing like this. And this is one of the first, I guess, giving you guys a little peek, a little insight into some of the changes that's going to be happening. But the colors itself of the show is going to change. The name of the show and everything else is going to change. And I'm honestly, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I am extremely excited because one, it is very difficult sometimes to really sit down and go through all these different domains that are available and what's not available, and trying to build a business or build a brand around an entire name, right? And trying to build it based off of the podcast and kind of start to develop that into different areas and section that off so where as though it can start to create a community and environment where people can learn and grow. But this that you see right now, again, if you're on YouTube, you're seeing all the color changes and you're seeing just a little bit of how things are going to be set up a little bit differently when it moves forward with the podcast. Now, as far as the name itself of the show, we're going to be pivoting and rebranding the show as Leaders in Cyber Podcast. Leaders in Cyber Podcast. So don't be surprised if next week when this episode, new episodes and everything else is released, if you're going to see new album art, you're going to see new names for the show and everything else, is because we're going to be executing this rebranding over this next week. Now, what does that mean for all the episodes and everything that's already been recorded and released? All those episodes are going to stay. I'm not going to take them down. I'm not going to edit them. I'm not going to change them or anything like that. It's just going to be, this episode is going to basically be the transition of, or the starting point for this transition, this pivot. Okay. At the end of the day, what does that mean for you guys? To be honest, the content and everything is not going to change, minus some colors and some of the logos and things from that perspective. Honestly, this transition brings a lot more flexibility on things that I can provide for you all compared to the limitations that came with using some of the trademark names and trying to understand if the company Data Locker itself was going to absorb the podcast or if it was going to stay independent and do its own thing. So at this point, it gives me that freedom, that range to just be creative and share different things with you guys. So for example, I do want to go through some of those things to expect as time goes on, right? I don't have a solidified timeline on when all this stuff is going to happen, but at least I can give you guys a little bit of a peek inside of what to expect as we rebrand and change this entire persona and this entire brand into this, as we change this entire persona and this entire brand into Leaders in Security podcast. Okay. The number one thing, obviously, you already have seen it if you're on YouTube, but it's going to be the colors. If you don't know anything about me, and I highly doubt that you wouldn't know this about me if you listen to any show, but I'm a huge Marvel fan. I am a huge Marvel fan. So when it comes to like different color schemes and how different things mesh together and blend together, I'm just big on it. And obviously some of the big things that's happening right now, Multiverse of Madness, that's Doctor Strange's movie when it came out. But what that also introduces is all these different universes and galaxies and things like that. That was kind of the basis of this new color scheme. I wanted to kind of create this new environment, and it's a direct reflection of my personality. But what you'll also see is a lot of purples, a lot of deep purples, because I'm from Baltimore, born and raised, and the Ravens is, if I had to pick any team that I'm going to root for or cheer for the rest of my life, it will 100% be the Ravens. I will still rep the Orioles. However, I'm not as loud mouth about the Orioles because they have not been great in recent years, but I will still rep them no matter what, because it's just Baltimore, man. It's what we do. But the new colors, I think, is just a great representation of myself, but also I think it's just a cool combination of all the things that I like, man. When you think about the purples and the blues and the yellows and the blacks and all these different elements that now gets to go into the cover art and some of the different the visual aids and stuff that's going to be like on YouTube thumbnails and the new website and all those different things. I just think I think you guys are going to absolutely love it and enjoy it. And two, I'm already loving it, playing around with it, the new fonts and everything else. Okay. We already talked about the cover art. The cover art is definitely going to change. It's at this point, if you also haven't realized, I've started a little bit of a journey outside of the podcast in itself, and it's my new lock journey. So again, if you're on YouTube, you can see this right now, but I have, basically started my locks and everything else. So I got to create new art for that. It's unfortunate the time recording this video, about 3 days away from getting a retwist, as well as a new haircut, not a new haircut, but a haircut, tighten up and everything else. But the plan is to take a new photo so that I can then draw that photo, which, if you haven't known this by now, I do take the time to typically draw every single what do you call it, like thumbnail and everything of every guest that's on the show. So it's I don't know, I love kind of expressing that side of me of like, hey, I like to create, I like to draw, I like to do different things. So I do have to do that. I got to take a photo, create a new if you could say avatar per se, right? To where as though it's a direct reflection of the new look, the new persona of not just the show, but me, myself, my personality, the expression, all those different individual pieces. I think you guys are absolutely going to love the cover art, because every time I look at the framework of it, everything is pretty much done on the cover art, minus some small details I'm going to make to a new shield that I am designing, and the caricature. So like the new cartoon of what my face looks like in itself is going to change, because I wanted to reflect the new hairstyle and everything else, so that it's memorable for anybody, any conference that I go to and anywhere that I go to connect with other cybersecurity professionals. I wanted to kind of be like, oh man, you're the dude from blank, right? Or you're the dude from Leaders in Security's podcast, right? I wanted to all kind of be memorable from that perspective. So with that being said, I already hinted a little bit about the shield as well. The shield is going to change a little bit. Can't have the squares inside of the shield and things like that. Like I said, it's a proprietary product of what Data Locker offers inside of their security suite of tools. So I'm going to be changing up the shield a little bit, just because I think shields in general are just dope. Not because of just Captain America that's back there, but also because of what it represents, right? The things that you put on your shield tells a story. And that's what I'm really trying to figure out, of what exactly do I want to have inside of that shield, and how am I going to communicate a story just within the shield itself, because that shield is going to be duplicated or reused and repurposed for so many different things down the road, right? For different visual aids. So like with the YouTube videos, different thumbnails going to be on, different parts of the website. All these different things are going to be have a part of the shield inside of it. So I want to make sure that it's something really cool, really unique. and is a great expression and representation of what the show is, but also who I am as an individual creator as well. So that's taken a little bit of time, honestly, longer than I expected, but I'm having a lot of fun with that. Lastly, well, not lastly, another thing you can expect is merch. This is kind of where the conversation, I'm glad that it happened sooner rather than later, but I wanted to start creating merch, right? So I want to start creating t-shirts and different things that you can use that basically represents the brand. So it can kind of create that more brand awareness in different places. So, but creating merch and creating environments where if you're a guest on the show, maybe new merch can be sent to you, whether that be a t-shirt or a coffee mug or some kind of tote bag or something like that, right? I would love to get feedback from different individuals who are listening to this episode to tell me what some of those things are that would be cool to receive as a guest on the show, right? But then also things that you all, the fan base, can purchase and use and utilize for yourself as a as showing a support that you all can use and show as just support for the show, right? I want to know what kind of items you guys are interested in, because whatever you are interested in, it's not necessarily like the merch that I'm creating is not to make a profit. It's more so, one, to cover the cost of the show in itself, but two, I love when I get just infatuated or deeply ingrained into some type of community or environment or a show that I really like to listen to, say like Hacker Valley with Chris and Ron. These different shows that really, for me, has made a big impact already inside of my career in cybersecurity. I wanted to create something that you guys could also be like, hey man, I want to grab something that shows that expression or shows that direct belief inside of the show, or maybe the value that I receive from the show. So I thought that would be a really cool way to just provide that as an option. And again, the reason why this is coming up is because I wanted to do that for Simply Secure Podcast, but then basically we ran into this trademark issue and making sure that things are done legally, right? We want to make sure that, I don't want to overstep boundaries that I'm not supposed to be overstepping. I want to still be a law-abiding citizen. So with that being said, I'm glad, again, we found this out sooner rather than later so that we can start making this transition and things now compared to, maybe when we were 100 episodes in and we had to make this huge like overhaul of everything that was happening. So merch is a huge thing. Now, lastly, I will say this. This is something that's always, it's a passion project of mine. It's something that I've always looked forward to. It's something that I always try to develop no matter what I do. But some type of cyber leadership training I want to make a part of the show, whether that be a part of the brand itself, whether that be bonus episodes. I'm not quite sure how exactly that's going to come together. If it's going to be a course, I have no idea. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm just giving you guys some insight into what's on my docket of things of what I want this to morph into. But basically, providing some type of either online course or online community plus a course that allows you to really sharpen your skills as a cybersecurity professional and kind of gear different courses towards different individuals inside of their career. So if you're trying to break into cyber, I would love to have a course that says, hey, here's some of the things that you want to consider as you're getting into cyber. Because right now, obviously, it's a fun part of going out and actually developing your network. Like you've heard multiple different times on the show, identifying different people who you can chat with and understanding if they're willing to mentor you and take you under your wing and start to communicate, hey, this is exactly what you need to do in order to be successful here or to break into the industry or whatever else it may be. But I thought it would also be really dope if you could just have a course that already kind of lays that out for you, right? And you can kind of go through and again, everybody's going to be different. That's the unique part about this idea in itself. Everybody's way of getting into cyber is typically unique, right? It's not something that everybody just follows this roadmap and you just become a cybersecurity professional. What I would like to provide is just resources and courses that allows you to just fully get in there and do things that you need to do to develop yourself as a leader, though. And I think that's really where I want this show to really like kind of steer towards, is developing the leader inside of cybersecurity. So not necessarily 100% of the technical side of things and how those things work. I'm sure I'll have different people continue to be on the show to talk about that, but more so the leadership that's required in order to lead security teams, in order to lead yourself, in order to truly add value to your organization, from a business communication standpoint and things from that perspective. That's really where I would like this show to go. And, to really start to develop that community around that specific piece, the leadership side of cybersecurity, how to communicate when you're inside of the boardroom, different things like that. Just kind of spitballing some topics here. So, with that, I don't want to, make this episode significantly longer than what it needs to. Honestly, recording right now, I'm already at 22 minutes. I did not think it was going to take that long. However, I just wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to share with you guys the news. I wanted to share with you guys some of the differences, the nuances, the stuff that is coming up. But I also, at the end of the day, did not want you to feel derailed or like, what the heck is this new, album art and different things like that that's now coming up that's automatically being downloaded to my app or whatever else. I wanted you guys to hear it from me inside of an episode so that you understand this transition that is upon us. Okay. So, with that, I appreciate you guys listening to the last episode of the Simply Secure podcast. But I look forward to seeing you next week when we're officially rebranded and talking to you guys on the Leaders in Security podcast. With that, you guys stay blessed, stay secure. With that, again, I appreciate you all and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Deuces. So, what do you think? Was that helpful? There's incredible conversations just like this one all throughout this channel. The links on the screen, the videos that you'll see, is actually other videos that's very similar to some of the conversations that I had right here with this guest. So feel free to go ahead and binge watch some of these incredible conversations with other cybersecurity leaders within the space. And if you found value, feel free to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hit the like button, because it helps YouTube push this content and this channel to other people in the industry just like you. And obviously, those are the people that I'm trying to reach. So I appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again on the next one. Deuces.